Baubles on a lot to YouTube. Part 2 of the first Outsiders for 2015, followed by First Dog on the Moon.
Do about it. Just to reply to Melissa, in the U.S., the federal minimum wage is $7.25. We have 122 awards with hundreds of minimum wages. I think the very lowest minimum wage is about $17 an hour, with penalty rates, with all sorts of other things. We have one of the highest minimum wages in the world. It's hard for teenagers to work. It's. I think in terms of substance, it's bad, but I wouldn't touch it if I were Abbott. And I don't actually blame the unions for the state of our labor relations. I actually blame John Howard and the High Court of Australia and big business. When you look back at, and the reason we have a 1980s labor relation regime right now is because when Howard, whose government I generally like, they brought in work choices and it went through the High Court on the corporation's power, which is a complete constitutional joke. When you have Justice Kirby and Callanan agreeing in dissent, and that centralized, we used to have a very flexible, decentralized system. And then when the 2007 election came along and the unions ran their campaign against work choices, big business did nothing. They didn't even run ads. They were completely hopeless. And now they're calling on Abbott to do something. They've got to be kidding. They're the ones to blame. They supported the Howard centralization move, without which you could not have had the Fair Work Act and coast to coast, one size fits all.
That's, I'm afraid, all we have time for on Outsiders today. Thank you to our panel today for your spirited contributions. Professor James Allen from the University of Queensland, Dr. Zare Ghazarian from the School of Social Sciences at Monash University and author of the books Politics for Dummies, and also Melissa Singer, Weekend News Director at The Age and The Sunday Age.
Hello, patriots. Welcome to First Dog on the Moon's Guide to Modern Living. I'm Walkley Award-winning cartoonist for The Guardian Australia, Sir on the Moon. That's right. It was such a humbling privilege to receive a knighthood in the recent Australia Day honours lists. Like my fellow Aussie knight, Princess Phillip, I'm happy to add this award to the long list of all my other awards, honours, decorations, distinctions, orders, accolades, titles, medals, certificates, plaques, and even a hand-knitted wooden bandicoot pinned to my lapel by the Grade 3 students at the Feral Valley Home for Recalcitrant Kiddies. Like Queen Phillip, I already have many titles, but this knighthood, kindly bestowed upon me by Prime Minister Terry Abbott... Sorry? Oh, Tony, yes, of course, lovely fellow. Prime Minister Tony Armpit is certainly the greatest honour I have received since I was granted member first...
Mozart has
not very...
expressiveness within that grace.
I used to keep all the orders and knighthoods and medals and so on in a box under the bed, but eventually the dratted thing was up near the ceiling and I needed a ladder to have a nap. So now I keep them by the back door. They're awfully handy for flinging at fruit bats when they try to get into the persimmons. But there's no question. This knighthood from Austria is right up there with being pinged for many of my other favourite decorations like Royal Chief of the Inestimable Order of Grong, Grand Master and Head Prefect of the most ancient and noble Order of the Well-Trousered Thistle, Lord High Admiral and Keeper of the Golden Paddle of the Kayaks of Togo, Companion of the Order of Senior Sergeant Constable Kenny Koala of the Rural and Regional Anthropomorphised Marsupial Bush Police, although my real favourite might just be the collar of the Grand Poobah of the North Shore Knights of the Round Buffet with crossed splades. I've been awarded the Boxing Day Medal of Excessive Bravery in the face of post-Christmas sales. There's so many medals. The Victoria Cross, the Purple Cactus, the Ambidextrous Pendulum featuring a lion rampant on a field of azure crepe with turtle epaulets. Medals like the Pacific Star, the Africa Star, the Arctic Star, and also the Arctic Tern. But that turned out to be a bird on a stick, so I only wear that for very formal occasions. I also have the keys to the cities of London, Melbourne, Dar es Salaam and Braidwood. Some might suggest it's all just hereditary privilege, an utterly random turn of events that meant I was already better than you even before I was born. But no, I've earned it. Cutting ribbons day and night, turning hundreds of the first sods, tugging on thousands of the little gold ropes that pull back the stupid velvet curtains to reveal the plaques, shaking hand after hand of insufferable pompous politicians who do weird things with their tongues and can't even string a sentence together. What is that about? I have earned it. I have earned all of these gongs. So, after all the kerfuffle about the Republic and the monarchy, I was not at all surprised to receive an invitation to be a part of Campbell Newman's election campaign in Queensland. I know that Campbell was dreadfully keen to have Prime Minister Terry Armpit assisting him on the campaign trail. Unfortunately, explained to Rupert why everything was the fault of a woman again. But I was happy to fill in. There's nothing a knife-edge election needs more than a visit from a member of the royal family. And while none of them was stupid enough to attend, I was happy to waddle into Brisbane, wave a white glove at the adoring crowds and float around the hotel pool on a lilo, drinking my weight in pouring. It was delicious beer. You can imagine the good burgers.
Well, bugger that.
I'll see you at Lane.
It's clear that the democracy was the winner here today. So thanks for listening, Patriots. This has been First Dog on the Moon's Guide to Modern Living for the First Dog on the Moon Institute. You're welcome.
Well, I think the batteries in the new radio must be needing to be changed. It does tend to eat batteries. I think Tony Abbott is the best thing that's ever happened to the Australian Republican movement. Last year, when he reconstituted knights and dames in the Order of Australia, everybody thought he was as mad as a cut snake, but it sort of died away because he only made one of each. Maybe he made two of each. So it had such low impact that even somebody who's interested in politics can't actually remember the details. But this year, he opened his mouth at the Australia Day celebrations and he pulled out a turd that is still emerging from his mouth. The impact has been amazing. All over the country, there were people who thought that the Liberal National Party's federal policy on unemployment and on education and on health was utterly bloody insane. People all over the country can't understand why we're celebrating the 100th anniversary of Gallipoli by spending $560,000 on fuel and maintenance to bomb second-hand Humvees in the Iraqi desert because Tony Abbott thinks that there's an anti-God death cult over there, therefore we have to go and kill people to get rid of the death cult. Nobody with half a brain can understand Tony Abbott's belief that when he was voted in, all of a sudden global warming and climate science were expected to evaporate in a puff of electoral hoodwinkery. And that didn't happen either. We just had another hottest year on record and they're having days of 48 and 50 degrees in Central Australia. Perth is burning every bloody day last week and again this weekend. Meanwhile, the East Coast has been hit by thunderstorms and hail, but they're not a whole lot of flash floods. There's not a lot of water in the dams. We've got what they call a green drought where there's plenty of pasture, plenty of growth. Cattle prices are at record highs, but nobody can sell any cows because they haven't got any because they got rid of them all during the drought. So there's this really lush pasture growth and nothing in the rivers and nothing in the dams to feed any of the cows that nobody's actually got. So given time, that should make for an interesting bushfire season if we get a dry winter. We'll have a big growth spurt at the end of summer with enough transient rain to keep things going. So we've got global warming chewing away at the economy all over the world. And the way it does that is it busts the infrastructure and it causes people, excuse me, it causes people to make claims on their insurance. And that causes the insurance companies to put the premiums up and that causes the businesses to go out backwards because You're not allowed to trade unless you've got insurance. You have to have public risk insurance, or you can't open the doors of your shop in case somebody falls over and sues you and you haven't got the money to pay them out. Therefore, the law says you must carry insurance. Despite the fact that it's an allegedly religiously free country where anybody can make up their own God theory, the economists have decided that we live in an atheistic universe of random chaotic chance where accidents lurk, ready to descend on the unwary, on the normal, happy, good, well-meaning people for no reason at all. Random accidents happen, bad shit happens to good people. There's no such thing as any cosmic scoreboard or God theory. Therefore, we have to have insurance to keep us all safe. Sad fact is the insurance premiums are priced at 600% of the cost of the risk involved. So if you live somewhere where the actual risk of losing the roof of your house in a thunderstorm is 1 every 300 years, you can expect to pay 1/50th of the cost of the roof of your house as the annual premium to insure the roof of your house. Something like 7% of Australia's total income tax revenue actually gets fed to its health industry. If you look at all of the GP services, the hospitals, the Veterans Affairs, the old people's homes, the psych hospitals, around about 7%. Over there in the excited states where everything has to be done via the private health insurance system, I think people over there are paying somewhere from 30 to 40% of their pre-tax wages to the health insurance company. And whereas if I get sick and go to the local hospital, they'll treat me for nothing because I'm Australian. In America, you get sick and you go to the hospital and they find a loophole, which means the insurance company doesn't have to do anything for you. So, yeah, the economists with their atheist religion called insurance are chewing the economy to pieces because global warming is busting all of the actuarial predictions for how many extreme weather events they budgeted on. The economy is going down the gurgle hole, and the crony capitalist fascist dictatorship that Tony Abbott and Campbell Newman thought they were going to put together appears to be not long for this world. The only really dangerous thing that might happen is the Liberal Party might stick Malcolm turning bull in at the last moment, you know, sort of like the Labor Party swapping prime ministers, shuffling the pack, so to speak, because Malcolm Turnbull's not nearly as big a bloody dickhead as Tony Abbott. He might actually rescue some of the Liberal National Party's electoral prestige. Perhaps. Trouble is, he's an investment banker, and what he used to do was finance logging operations in virgin rainforests on Pacific Islands before he got his start in the Liberal Party. So, Campbell Newman, the human hemorrhoid, is now an unemployed real estate agent. He hasn't got a job. He's corrupted the police. He's rigged the judiciary. He's decimated, that means got rid of 1 in 10, decimated the Queensland public service and the health industry, made a mess of everything he's touched. He's what they say he's got very sexy hands. It means he fucks everything he touches. In the old sense of forced unlawful carnal knowledge, you know, like the traditional legal acronym for the word. So, really sucks to be a Liberal national voter, doesn't it? The weather's turning against them. The economy's turning against them. The premiums they pay at the acceptance division of the Temple of Mammon are breaking their commercial businesses. And the only people who've been right over the long run are the Greens. And nobody wants to take the Greenies seriously, because how can you take the Greenies seriously? The Greenies want to do things that make sense. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.